Recording in progress.
Can we begin the housekeeping comments, please?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-2432. That's 909-396-2432. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Gracias por participar en la reunión de hoy. Si asiste en persona, favor de no conectarse a la conferencia telefónica o Zoom mientras esté en el auditorio y silencie sus dispositivos. Si traducción es disponible, haga clic en el icono de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla para seleccionar inglés o español. Se tomarán comentarios del público después de cada punto. Si se encuentra en el auditorio y desea dar comentario, utilice los iPads ubicados en el vestíbulo o complete una tarjeta azul según esté disponible. Si necesita ayuda, localice a un empleado de South Coast AQMD. Los comentarios pueden ser limitados a un total de 3 minutos o menos para todos los puntos de la agenda. El tiempo límite puede ser reducido para que todos los comentarios puedan ser escuchados. Se mostrará un temporizador de cuenta regresiva en la pantalla para cada comentario público. Se asignará más tiempo para traducción al español si no es simultáneo. Si tiene preguntas o problemas sobre cómo hacer un comentario público, llame al asesor público al 909-396-2432. 909-396-2432. Respete el tiempo límite y favor de tratar a los demás con cortesía, civilidad y respeto. De lo contrario, es posible que se silencie el micrófono o que sea retirado de la reunión. Tenga en cuenta que esta reunión está siendo grabada. Al participar, usted autoriza la grabación de audio y contenido visual presentado durante el evento en vivo y da su consentimiento para el uso de la grabación en el dominio público por parte de South Coast AQMD.
All right, good morning. Let's call this meeting to order. And I ask Board Member Kracov to guide us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor-elect Dawson is absent. Supervisor Hagman.
Here.
Board Member Kracov.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum.
Here.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Present.
Supervisor Nguyen. Councilmember Olmos.
Here.
Board Member Padilla Campos is absent. Supervisor Perez is absent. Councilmember Rahman is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice Chair Cacchiotti.
Here.
And Chair Delgado.
I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, we have the honor of doing 2 swearing-ins today of new board members, and we're going to be hosting that up here at the same time. So we're going to be swearing in Supervisor Nguyen and Councilmember Olmos.
Yeah.
All right. You got it?
Got it. Thank you.
Okay,
Mhm.
there we go. Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I,
Brenda
Janet Nguyen,
Olmos, during such time as I hold the above office,
during such time as I hold the above office,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I bear true faith and allegiance
that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Councilmember Olmos, if you don't mind just giving us a little bit of a background on you and so we can welcome you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair, governing board members, SQAMD staff and administration, members of the public. My name again is Councilmember Brenda Olmos, and I am your new Western Region Board member. I definitely want to thank my colleagues of the 55 cities for their support to represent them in this role. I am a resident of Paramount in the southeast Los Angeles area that has approximately 51,000 residents within a 4.8 square miles radius between three of the busiest corridors in our region, the 105, the 710, and the 91 freeways. So again, I am not new to the air quality challenges of the Western region and our air quality in the region. Elected by my peers to represent the Western region at AQMD is an honor of a lifetime. Currently serving my second term in the office for the city of Paramount. I also serve as a president-elect of California Contract Cities Association. I represent the Gateway Cities Council of Governments for the League of California Cities, and I sit on the LA County Commission for Local Government. Again, I am not new to being a voice for our region. I understand that our cities are separated by city limits, but when it comes to our clean air, there are no borders. As a local elected official in the Western region, I understand how important the work that we are going to do is for our communities. While I've been briefed by staff on the role of the board member, I am familiar with how much work still needs to be done. From focusing on upcoming proposed rules and regulations that impact all of our communities, to addressing the changes that are coming in from federal government. I'm here to assure you that I will represent the Western region with dignity and respect, and as an elected official in this region who has helped to build strong collaborative work for our region. I believe in addressing air quality issues with a balanced approach. I look forward to our collective work in finding solutions that will clean the air that we all breathe for this generation and for the next. I cannot imagine anyone wanting anything different. Thank you for your time, Chairwoman Delgado, and let's get to work.
I'm excited to have you join us.
Thank you.
Supervisor Nguyen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'm County Supervisor Jan Nguyen from the District 1 in Orange County. I want to first thank my chairman, Doug Chafee, and the Board of Supervisors appointing me here. It is an appointment of a lifetime. Just a little background on myself. I've been a council member, been on the Board of Supervisors in the county before a decade ago, and went to the Senate and also to the Assembly, and left the Senate recently to come back to the County Board of Supervisor. I used to represent as a senator the entire coast of Orange County, so very familiar with the coast and also the inland. I do have several cities still in my supervisorial district. Madam Chair, I want to just thank you for your time yesterday, talking to me and getting me briefed. And I also want to thank the CEO and the executive staff as well for working after hours and being on the call with me and just really giving us a lot of information. I was literally drinking from the fire hose. I just want to be here and be a voice for Orange County. I want to be a voice on regulations imposing in our communities, making sure that residents can afford the basic of everyday life in Southern California, while also making sure that we have clean air and water. I'm extremely grateful for this appointment and very eager to get started. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I just want to make a personal note that I served in the Senate for the shortest term of anybody, and the supervisor was so kind to me, even though, we had no previous relationship. And so I hope to extend the same amount of kindness here at the board and know that those small things matter. So I extend the same welcome to you.
Thank you so much.
All right, the next item I asked our vice chair to help me with because I don't want to get too emotional about it right from the start. So he's going to tee us off on the next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of a double-edged sword. We're really sad to make these comments, but happy for this gentleman who's moving on. These are comments for one of our colleagues, Mr. Gideon Kracov. Board Member Kracov has served on the board since February 2020, over 5 years. He's also the governor's appointee representing us on the California Air Resources Board. He supported the approval of over $1.2 billion in incentive funding, resulting in annual emission reductions of about 3,500 tons of NOx, 75 tons of particulate matter. During Gideon's time on the board, those 5 years, in all of our contributions, but Gideon's played a major role. Annual NOx reductions in our basin have decreased by a massive 28%. Board Member Kracov has also been the chair of the Mobile Source Committee, where he's led the conversations on the 2022 Air Quality Management Plan, the huge marine ports issue, and implementation of the first in the nation warehouse indirect source rule. There's no doubt Mr. Kracov is dedicated to bringing cleaner air to the 16.4 million residents of our basin. As we've all heard, he's very passionate about protecting the overburdened communities. Just a couple of things very briefly he's voted for. Again, Rule 2305, we know, is the first warehouse indirect source rule in the nation, reduces up to 1,600 tons of NOx, nitric oxides per year. Also passed Rule 1109.1, the most comprehensive NOx rule for oil refineries in the nation that reduce almost 3,000 tons of NOx a year. Gideon, we know, leads with his heart, his intelligence, his passion. You might have been here last meeting. You heard his impassioned speech, which moved all of us. Gideon, we're going to miss you. And I just have a couple comments for Gideon, Madam Chair. As a former high school theology teacher, a soccer coach, and I taught the Bible, Gideon is a biblical name. And Gideon in the Bible, if you recall, was a famous prophet, a judge, and a famous military leader. On his board, Gideon's used all those talents as a judge, a prophet, and a military leader sometimes. But when he came on board, I'm very active. I paid my way through Catholic high school by working, cutting the grass, all that stuff at the local church and convent and rectory. I invited Gideon out to one of our cities to see how electric lawnmowers work. He came out several occasions all across our basin, San Bernardino, Los Angeles, Glendora. He met at warehouses when I asked him to come out when he first got on the board. He was so excited to be here. Gideon, you're a friend. I wish you well in your next phase, your current phase. You're an incredible mediator. And I wish we'd have kept your skills to mediate some of these bigger problems we're working on. You're a great friend. And thank you for everything you've done personally for all of us. And good luck in your next endeavors.
We have a plaque for you, a crystal, and I just want to say, I remember when I first met Gideon, he came as a replacement to a woman that's part of what I call a Hope Sisterhood, a group of women, and he was replacing her on the board as a governor's appointee. And I wasn't sure about him, it's really technical, very, very excited about the science of what we do. And so he went to everything, and we were both semi-new. And so I feel like I learned with Gideon. And when I got on the AQMD board, I knew that it would be a challenging and rewarding experience, but I never expected to come out of this experience with somebody that I consider a lifelong friend. And Gideon, you are definitely stuck. I didn't want to say your remarks because I don't want you to come off the board, but I totally respect and hope just nothing but the best for you and your next piece of journey. Yeah, we'll have you come up and then you can give your remarks.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, for that. And I can't help but say a couple words, right? This decision to step down has not come lightly, but after careful consideration, it's the right time for me to step down from AQMD and CARB to focus on my family obligations in the aftermath of the Eaton fire. I'm so thankful to Governor Newsom for the opportunity to serve. It's been the thrill of a lifetime. It's been the work of a lifetime. And I honestly never thought I would ever be in these kinds of positions sitting here with all of you leaders on this dais. As you know, our work in public service is a family affair. My wife, Misty, for some reason I still can't figure out, is so supportive of me in all the things that I do. The poor thing, I'll probably will make her watch this on recorded webcast tonight. I started in March 2020. My first board meeting was March 4th. I had one board meeting. A week later, the world shut down due to COVID-19. I didn't see any of you again in person I think it was for more than a year. We've been through a lot together. This agency, our staff have been through a lot. The pandemic, emergencies at our wastewater plants, our landfills, too many fires to even mention. And all the while, our staff carries out, day in, day out, essential functions to serve our mission to protect public health with innovative and practical strategies. Our residents can count on South Coast AQMD, can rely on South Coast AQMD when they need it most. We show every day at this agency that government works. And look at the data. The past 30 years, NOx, smog emissions in our air basin have decreased by 70%. Cancer risk has decreased by more than 80%, protecting public health. And during the last 20-year time period, GDP, economic growth in our 4-county region has increased by about 300%, growing our economy through innovative technologies and reasonable regulation and enforcement. I mean, those are the facts. So I want to thank our staff, from the executive suite to the folks in permitting, technology advancement, enforcement, planning, monitoring, public affairs, our internal budget and HR teams, our board consultants. Thank you to our labor units, the Teamsters and the engineers, many who have worked here for decades. You are why AQMD today is so strong and well managed. And on this dais, this board almost always acts on a bipartisan basis, almost always with support from both the regulated communities and the fence line communities, and always with collegiality and dignity. That is the legacy, colleagues, that we have inherited, and we now share up on this dais. An inheritance passed down to us from our predecessors, Ron Loveridge, Dennis Yates, Bill Burke, John and Ben Benoit, leaders and mentors on this dais who came before me, like Chair Vanessa Delgado, Vice Chair Mike Cacciati, Stationary Source Chair, my good buddy Larry McCallan, and Technology Chair Carlos Rodriguez. We were the 5 here when I joined. All of you public servants, the truth, really, look at all of us on this dais. Our diversity is our strength. It really is. And I'm so proud of the work we've done together these past 5 years to build and protect our inheritance. Quickly, let's examine the work we've done together. We managed once and for all the very tricky transition of the Reclaim Trading Program, passing new rules, innovative yet practical, for a host of sources, and especially the refineries, Rule 1109. We adopted or amended world-leading, often first-of-their-kind rules for glass melting furnaces, publicly owned treatment works, petroleum storage tanks, chromium alloy melting, chromium electroplating and chromic acid anodizing, aggregate mining, stationary gas turbines, electric power plants, metal melting, metal recycling and shredding, adhesives, refinery flares, and fence line monitoring, oil and gas drilling notification next to residences, and what was really tough, ethylene oxide sterilizers. We did indirect source rules for warehouses that withstood legal challenge from the Trucking Association and the airlines with no appeal, and that got USA approval. And that does not even include efforts like the Chair's Permit Streamlining Task Force, so important, that's on the agenda today. The countless hours staff spends standing up and working hard for residents of Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach, San Bernardino, Muscoy, East LA, Boyle Heights, Eastern Coachella, Southeast LA, and South LA, administering our AB 617 programs. Thank you for that very difficult work. Our groundbreaking zero-emission air quality management plan, or the billions of dollars in technology funding, like the $500 million Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program, we went and got together, the largest air grant in US EPA history. Or those beautiful snow-capped mountains that we can all see today, clear as a bell. That is our inheritance, colleagues. Now, is everything we do perfect? No. Are we human up here? Yeah, we sure are. Do we have a challenge in meeting our fiduciary duty, colleagues, to attain the federal air quality standards? Yes, we still do. Are the issues we deal with politically and technologically easy up here? No, they're very hard. Do we often have to amend or tweak our approach? Do we demonstrate a day in and day out a willingness to adapt and learn? Yes, we do. Look at the current staff proposals, for example, on Rules 1111, 2304, how our approach has changed in response to public feedback, in response to comments and leadership from our board and staff. Now, of course, there's going to be those on the extremes who can't admit this, who can't get out of their echo chambers, their bunkers, who don't have the courage or the ability to tell the truth. But we on this dais, we don't work that way. That's not our inheritance. What I'm most proud of is the relationships I've built, board members, with each and every one of you, each different and special in its own way. And I know we're always going to be friends. And I know each of you and our new board members, Supervisor Nguyen, Councilmember Olmos, will build on and protect our inheritance, our culture up on this dais. I really know that in my heart. Governor Newsom knows I'm committed to ensuring a smooth transition, and I'm happy to assist in any way during this process. Thank you again for the trust you placed in me, and I look forward to the continued success of the South Coast Air Quality Management District, our common inheritance, an inheritance shared by everyone in this room and the 16 million people that we all serve. Thank you, Chair.
Wow. Yeah, let's stand up for.
We have board members that'd like to speak. So I'll go ahead and start with Councilmember Rahman.
Gideon, I did not think that this day would come so quickly. So I'm really disappointed to not be working on this body with you anymore. I know that we're going to stay in touch. I know that you're still going to act as a guide for me in my work here and point me in the right direction of where we need to take our work, our power to really help people in this region. I also did want to say that as a new board member for an entity that works very differently from the city council, you don't always know how to do this job. Like, you don't know what, okay, are you just supposed to come here? How much briefing are you supposed to get? Are you supposed to talk to the people who are coming and giving public comment? And I feel like you taught me that this job doesn't just mean coming to these board meetings once a month. If you believe in this work, which I think all of us do, of cleaning the air and of making this a safer place for the people of this region, I think you go out to the ports and talk to every single terminal operator. You go out to our labor partners and have meetings with every single one of them, not just once, but over and over again. You go out to other people's areas and talk to them about the political challenges that they're facing in trying to support this work. And you try and help them address it. And you try and break down the misinformation and the lies that have generated hostility about the important work that we are doing here. And you try and fix what we're doing to make it better. And I haven't gotten the chance to know as many of you as well as I've gotten to know Gideon. But for me, he's changed the way in which I think about my role here and the work that I do here as a board member. And I just want to say thank you for that. We're going to miss you, and I'm going to try my best to carry on your legacy here. So thank you.
Supervisor Mitchell.
I should have got to the request to speak before the councilwoman. That's a hard act to follow. Jeez. First of all, beautifully said, beautifully said. First of all, to our new board members, welcome. Let me just say to you that it is a steep learning curve and the duty is significant. I want you to be prepared for that. Secondly, to Gideon, it's one thing for those of us who are elected to step into this role. It is a part of our elected duty. It is another thing for someone to accept an appointment to assume this kind of responsibility, so I tip my hat to you. Gideon and I began to share book recommendations, and I stumbled upon a book yesterday, and of course now I can't find it because it's Friday. But the focus of the book really talked about ending relationships, making professional transitions. And just in the synopsis that I read, it gave me a very different lens and perspective on endings, that endings are okay and appropriate. So I want you to know that I'm okay with you ending. You owe us no explanation about why you have chosen to transition. That endings can lead to something better. And so we shouldn't view endings as the negative, as the heavy. And so I wish for you in this ending something better, that it's an opportunity for you to direct your energy and time, the great amount of time that this work takes, into another area, and that's okay. I know that we will also have access to you, and that because you are curious, will want to hear from us and continue to stay engaged. And I'm sure all of us commit to continue to engage you in that way. But in the spirit of this concept of how we manage endings, I wish you well.
That was also beautifully said. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
Well, that's too hard acts to follow. Let me also start by welcoming my new colleagues to our great work here, and I'm looking forward to working with both of you as we move forward to meet our mission. I want to also just take a moment to say how much I appreciate board member parting Gideon Kracov. Gideon, thank you so much for all the things that I've said. I agree wholeheartedly with, and just want to add, wishing you, Misty, and your beautiful family the best, especially during these difficult times. Very grateful for camaraderie and friendship, and that was mentioned very well by Supervisor Mitchell as far as endings. Also wishing you a wonderful new beginning for you and your family. One thing that I really admire about you is just how the sense of civility, a sense of collaboration, a sense of camaraderie, and the time that you took proactively to reach out with a phone call, with a text, maybe cheering me up after one of my teams loses with a little text emoji. But just apart from all of those types of moments as colleagues and friends, the great work that you've done, how prepared you've come. It's like the old saying of, I try to listen to everyone because the good Lord gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as I talk. But in particular, it's like an E.F. Hutton moment of an old commercial. I'm probably aging myself a bit, but just, when Gideon Krakov's comments, I'm listening a little more intently. Thank you for the time on CARB as well. That's a significant amount of time and travel away from your family, in addition to all the work you've done here on the board and in committees, which I've also enjoyed working with you in that manner. I know you're going to have great accomplishments ahead, and looking forward to hearing about that and beginning this new time of friendship ahead. So best to you, and God bless you.
Yes, I'm sorry for being late, but welcome to our new board members. And Gideon, I knew you were leaving today, and I was sad after I found out. I really owe a lot to you in terms of, my involvement with AQMD. So, and for everything that you do for the environment as a fellow environmental champion, thank you for everything. I know you're going to continue in the great fight, and I know why you're stepping down, and but I don't think it'll be the last time you and I talk and work together. So I wish you all the best, and you have a friend in me, so don't forget that. And God bless. Take care.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for your comments. I don't have any other requests to speak, but we will see you back here sometime soon, Gideon. Wayne, opening comments, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few items of note. I'm sure you all saw as you drove in this morning that we have one heck of a technology showcase out there. That showcase is running from 9:30 to noon, and hopefully we will finish it with enough time that you all will be able to actually go out and see some of the booths and some of the technology that this board has invested so much time and effort and resources in, and has really resulted in cleaner air for all of us. In addition to a lot of the things that we've invested in, we'll also have displays of some of the mobile monitoring equipment that we use in the Eaton and Palisades fire. So if you have a chance, definitely urge you to take a look at the equipment and our staff, and to continue that learning process that Board Member Kracov talked so endeared and passionately about. Also, just want to note that today is the last day for the Governing Board Internship Program applications. So applications will close today at 5:30 p.m. And as you all know, the applicants must be enrolled in a 2 or 4 year college university. This is a paid internship program with an 8 and 10 week option. And if you need any information, we'll get that to you right away. Also want to note that next month, the April Governing Board meeting will be held at the Palm Desert Civic Center Council Chambers in Palm Desert. The April Governing Board retreat has been canceled. We'll be looking at potentially rescheduling that later this year. And then also just want to give an update on the Eden and Palisades fire. I think everyone knows that we've completed the mobile monitoring phase for both the Eden and Palisades area, and that helped inform the placement of stationary monitoring sites. So we now have 3 locations in the Eaton fire area and 2 in the Palisades fire area. There's been a lot of work in developing our website, so I urge you to take a look at the website so that you can actually see the results. We have near real-time data on some of the analytes that we're testing for, and then hopefully you'll be able to see the good work that the teams are doing. And finally, just want to note that the applications for lower emission school bus programs is open. This is being done to replace older and higher emitting school buses with zero emission buses. And the program is available to public school districts, including those participating under a joint powers authority agreement. And applications for those are due on April 18th by 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that concludes my remarks, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to take a moment. Wayne mentioned it, but I think it's worth mentioning. Honor and privilege to serve as the technology chair, and in that role, just want to publicly thank the staff, Wayne, Aaron, all of the TAO staff for their hard work in making our showcase. This is the largest in-person showcase featuring the latest clean air technologies that we've ever hosted. So congratulations on that, countless hours you put in to that, and our great team. It's going to feature zero emission technologies, including medium, heavy duty trucks and trailer systems, school buses, law enforcement vehicles, as well as lawn and garden equipment and construction equipment. Our attendees today are also learn about mobile monitoring labs, air filtration systems, and other innovative technologies designed to improve our air quality. Many of these technologies have been developed and demonstrated using various South Coast AQMD grant and incentive programs through public and private partnerships. So looking forward to moving, as always, efficiently through our agenda and getting out there with my colleagues to take a look. Thank you.
I'll do my best. All right. With that, I'll get us into general public comments. We do have 10 speakers who have signed up here in person. So the list will be up there. We're going to start with Allison Ham, followed by Fernando Gaitan. And then we'll go to online comments.
Hi, good morning. My name is Allison Hom. I'm an attorney with NRDC's Environment, Equity, and Justice Center, and I'm a member of the Impact Project. I just wanted to start by saying thank you, Board Member Kracov, for standing with communities over the years, and we remember you supporting the Warehouse ISR and standing with us on the Rail ISR, so it means a lot, and thank you. I'm joining you all today just with one message, which is that we need to create strong and enforceable emission reduction targets for the port indirect source rule. We all know the importance of the ports in Southern California to our economy. These ports are vital to the movement of goods, creating jobs, supporting businesses, and connecting us to the global market. However, what often goes overlooked are the environmental and public health costs associated with port operations, particularly port pollution that is generated through vehicle emissions, ships, and other logistical activities that take place beyond the immediate confines of the port itself. Port pollution contributes disproportionately to the air quality challenges in our region. The South Coast already has some of the most challenging air quality issues in the US, with pollutants like nitrogen oxides and particulate matter at levels that affect the health of millions. As many of you know, this is not just an environmental issue, it's a public health crisis. Asthma rates, heart disease, and respiratory conditions are still too high, particularly in communities near our ports, which bear the brunt of freight pollution. While proposed Rule 2304 as it stands is a step in the right direction, it's simply not enough to achieve the kind of emission reductions we desperately need to protect the health of our residents and the long-term sustainability of our environment. The Port ISR has the potential to be one of the most effective tools we have for cleaning up our air and protecting our communities. But to be truly effective, the rule must have strong emission reduction targets that will deliver real, measurable benefits for our environment and public health. We need a bold vision for the future, one that prioritizes cleaner air, healthier communities, and a more sustainable economy. Let us not settle for the status quo, and let us rise to the challenge, set ambitious targets, and lead the way toward a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable future for all. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Allison. After Fernando will be Jennifer Cardenas.
Good morning, Fernando Gaitan with Earth Justice. Welcome, new board members. And I want to start by expressing my deep appreciation to you, Board Member Kracov, for your tremendous service. At the last board meeting, you shared some thoughts with us that have really stayed with me, and I've thought about them a lot. Your leadership, along with many others on this board, have really built the foundation upon which bold action on air quality can be had. I want to thank you for that, for building that foundation. I want to focus on two rules today. The first one is the zero NOx appliance standard rules. These rules must pass this year. They're going to come before you soon. Rule 1111 and 1121 already reflect significant compromises. They were shaped through extensive stakeholder engagement. However, they must be strengthened in two key ways. First, setting mitigation fees that truly reflect the impact of NOx emissions. Fees must be high enough to drive change. Second, accelerating manufacturer requirements to bring zero NOx appliances to the market sooner. Delays only prolong pollution exposures for frontline communities. These rules are not about convenience to manufacturers or the gas company. They're about protecting public health. Second, I want to talk about the Port Indirect Source Rule, or the Port ISR. The Port ISR process has had a step forward, but infrastructure investments alone do not equate to emission reductions. The district must ensure that the rule reflects targeted approach to cutting pollution, not just expanding charging and fueling infrastructure. Without clear standards that require actual emission reductions, infrastructure investments may not translate into cleaner air. We look forward to continuing to work with staff to develop a comprehensive rule, a sensible rule, a practical rule that delivers measurable pollution reductions and holds polluters accountable. This board has made real progress, but now is the time to finish the job. The zero NOx rules must move forward with real teeth, and the Port Indirect Source Rule must be structured to guarantee actual emission reductions. We have the power to make these changes despite federal obstacles. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, following Jennifer will be Yareli.
Good morning, board members. It's really exciting to know that you're having an event outside that really shows the future that we can envision. Similarly to my colleagues, I want to talk about these two rules. First, the port ISR, we already know that there is no time to wait. We keep hearing from community members how impactful it is if we have cleaner air. And today's proof that technology is out there. We keep hearing from other entities that there isn't technology out there, that there's still more infrastructure needed, but you have to have a zero emission reduction plan in order to actually show us how the air quality is going to improve for the communities that you're supposed to advocate for. And then second, with the rules 1111 and 1121, you had a really great meeting yesterday. It was a 4-hour long consultation meeting where community members from all across the board that you represent wanted to know that there's no delay. They wanted to know if you can actually make these differences. And the only thing we kept hearing from the opposing people is that there's no technology out there. And earlier you went over a really great example of all the things that you have done for us here at South Coast AQMD as a board. You went through like amazing history with our board member Gideon. And I think you could continue that legacy and make these rules pass this year because people can't wait. People keep coming and you keep seeing new faces. And similarly, people have to retire. People can't like extend their lives like this anymore. And some people don't make it. This has been going on for decades and y'all can really improve this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Yareli, followed by Christian Tapia.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Yareli Olazábal. I am from Ponciana and currently reside in Riverside. As an environmental sciences student and concerned Southern California resident, I urge AQMD to implement a strong port ISR. Earlier today, board member Kracov mentioned a beautiful, clear view of snow-capped mountains. Yet today, the day after a ton of rainfall, when pollution is supposed to be at an all-time lowest, that same view is still shrouded and covered by a gray haze that is all too familiar. We must do better. Ports must be held accountable and emissions must be reduced. The health of both our environment and community members depend on it. We can't accept any excuses any longer. I urge all of you here today to please not delay rules 1111 and 1121. Please pass them in May. And thank you so much for your past efforts and continued efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Christian, followed by Andrea.
Hi, good morning, AQMD board and staff. My name is Cristian Tapia Delgado. I'm a climate campaigner with Pacific Environment and a downtown Long Beach resident. I'm here with other goods movement impacted community members to comment on the port's indirect source rule. Pacific Environment appreciates the efforts of staff who are continuing to move forward with the rule that'll coordinate electrification projects at ports and set a plan for reducing emissions for ships, which we know continue to be major sources of pollution and causing health-harming pollution for our communities and for the entire region. And as you've heard, and we'll hear from frontline community members today, we also need to see commitments in the rule on how the zero emission technology and charging infrastructure will all be utilized in a timely manner so that we can guarantee we are actually seeing emission reductions from this rule. I got a chance to quickly glance at the zero emission technology outside. It's great to see AQMD holding events like this to showcase the cleaner tech and just how rapidly this field is evolving. It gives me a sense of hope to see this, and but we also want to see commitments that all of this technology and technology that's to come will be utilized so that community can get clarity and transparency when it comes to the health benefits that we'll see from them. I, along with many others in this room, EJ advocates, ports, industry and community members have all been attending working group meetings. We attended the one a couple weeks ago on Friday. And we hope that despite pushback from some folks that we will continue, moving forward with a rule and not something voluntary that's non-binding, simply an agreement. And we'll continue to show up at these working group meetings and working with staff to adopt a strong rule that guarantees us emission reductions in a timely manner. And just want to remind folks that while the ports also have their own zero emission goals, these the Port of Long Beach and Port of LA's Green Port policy, as shared by President of the Board of Harbor Commissioners in Long Beach, this policy is a result of grassroots and community activism who push the ports to reduce emissions and charge them with addressing the role that they play in the public health crisis that we're facing. So thank you for your time, and please continue to move forward with the regulation that will guarantee us emission reductions from the Port ISR. Thank you.
Apologies, we're having some technical issues here. All right, Andrea, followed by Thomas.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Andrea. I'm with the People's Collective for Environmental Justice out of the Inland Empire. First off, just want to say thank you, Gideon, for all the work that you've done up here and in our communities. We've had convos, all types of them, even tough ones, but we've always maintained, I think, authenticity and wanting to have like a better vision for our community. So thank you for that. So now to my soapbox. Last month I was here. I really applauded the staff's effort to move forward in a rule for port air pollution reduction. And I also really appreciated the conversations that were had up on the dais about the fact that we've had so many delays and it's finally time to get things moving. And the only way to do it, as has been shown through history, is through a rulemaking. However, as you've heard, like our communities have been very clear that if we do not have emissions reduction goals and standards, then we're not going to see the benefits that we're talking about, right? Planning without use is useless. And we need to actually be able to like build the boat while on it. And so we need actual requirements of use and technology like the ones outside. And I hope staff continues to have these opportunities for the board to see, because no emission reduction goals is just another delay. And as you guys have said, we need no more delays. And so we hope that the staff in the as they continue to take our feedback, and for board members here to also be actively pushing this as well. If reducing air pollution is really in everyone's interest, then we need to have actual emission reduction goals in this rule as it comes up. Let's not let the ports bend this arm of government again, as we've been told that it's been many years of this. So thank you.
Thank you.
After the next speaker, we're going to cut the public comment portion of this item. So if you want to speak on this public comment, please raise your hand right now, because after Mr. Jelinek speaks, we're going to cut off public comment. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Chair Delgado. My name is Thomas Jelinich with the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association. First, I'd like to extend my thanks to Board Member Kracov. I have not ever had the pleasure of working with somebody who has worked so hard to try and understand the issue as you have. Your dedication to your work on the board, your dedication to understanding the facts are deeply appreciated by myself, my organization, and I think the entire maritime industry. You really went above and beyond the call of duty in everything you've done through this process. So thank you. I'd also like to welcome Councilmember Olmos and Supervisor Nguyen. I look forward to working with you on the issues before this board, particularly related to the Port ISR. It's a long, complicated journey, as I think you're already hearing today. And I think it will continue to be a complex journey to go through. And turning my attention to the recent workshop, I'd like to thank the board collectively for the focus on infrastructure. It's important. We heard a lot of interesting things at last week's workshop. PMSA and our industry will continue to be involved and work through this. And hopefully we will reach a point where we can all agree on the right path forward. We think there's a lot we can continue to do and build on the success that the ports have done in reducing emissions. Again, 91% reduction in diesel emissions. The ports, I think, are our single greatest success story when it comes to emission reductions in the South Coast. So thank you for your time this morning, and looking forward to continuing the work throughout the year.
Thank you. Kiona Winkler, followed by Peter Whittingham.
Hello. Good morning, board members. My name is Kiona Winkler, and I'm with the People's Collective for Environmental Justice, and I reside in Highland, right next to San Bernardino. To start out, we need emission reductions. AQMD should be including clear timelines and goals for emission reductions in their proposed rule. There is no mention of the consequences for not following these rules, so it could be taken advantage of. Of course, infrastructure is necessary, but investing in infrastructure will be ineffective and pointless if there is no mandate to actually use it. It should be invested alongside emission reduction targets. Without specific emission reduction goals, there is no guarantee that air quality will improve. This will leave not only port communities, but also those in the Inland Empire continuing to suffer from harmful pollutants. The draft language considers hydrogen as zero emission, yet once again, it lacks specifics and is not transparent on what hydrogen is being used. Gray and blue hydrogen still generate substantial amounts of CO2 emissions. That's not zero emissions. Green hydrogen has the potential to be made with zero emissions, but is extremely expensive and actually achieving this clean fuel requires an incredibly massive supply of renewable energy that we just do not have. We should be focusing on a just transition towards electrification. Finally, I urge you to include a no automation clause to protect workers and job security. Not including this clause justifies reducing jobs for the sake of automation and profit gain. Real people are being affected, and every one of you on this board has an obligation to improve and ensure healthy air quality for all individuals, no matter what community. The ports have been planning to double the size of the ports with clear timelines and clear goals. So if they can make clear goals in those plans to double the size of the ports, then they can make clear goals in the plans to reduce emissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Governing Board members. Peter Whittingham. I'd like to start by welcoming Supervisor Wynn and Councilmember Olmos to the Governing Board. You join at a very high interest time for the Governing Board and for the district. Obviously, some of the rules have been mentioned this morning. In fact, Thomas mentioned the workshop that occurred just last Friday for the ports ISR. And then yesterday, a public consultation meeting was held for Rules 1111, 1121. They went for, I believe, almost 4.5 hours. A lot of input, and staff certainly will be bringing that forward, I believe, at the May Governing Board meeting. But we look forward very much to working with both of you as well as with the entire Governing Board. I also would like to pass along my sincere best wishes to Governing Board Member Kracov. It's a trite and overused phrase to say, your successor has big shoes to follow. I think you leave a wake larger than an aircraft carrier in terms of what you've been able to accomplish. You have always been accessible. Your passion, that you have shown here for really being educated, being solicitous of information to be able to make the best decisions. Again, it is a hard act to follow, and obviously, as Supervisor Mitchell, this is not an ending. You will succeed, and you will bring the same passion to everything you pursue going forward. So again, just wanted to convey sincere appreciation for your time, your service, and look forward to hopefully working with you in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Daryl, close this up here for public comment in-house.
Good morning, board members. My name is Thurl Golden. I'm a resident of West Long Beach, a member of West Long Beach Association Moving Forward Network. And I want to start off with thanking Board Member Kracov for my experiences with him. From the beginning to the end, he was the same person. He was dedicated, courage, and encouraged people to exercise their rights and their abilities to make a better, I'm going to say, Los Angeles County, district, state of California. These things are important to all of us. And I'd like to thank the new board members And I hope that their experience is as great as his was here, and their legacy be as strong as his. With those things, the other board members, you've been doing an outstanding job, given the circumstances that you've been working under. But we need to do a little bit more. During the comments with, about Board Member Kracov, we talked about the reductions that have been received over the time period that he was here. But we still have more to go. And that more is 100%. We have a new starting point, and we have to get to zero. We have to have methods in place to track where we are. Exactly. And at the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles, this is being lost, in my opinion, where we are and where we're going. We are finding new pollutants or things that we didn't really know that was happening out there. In the Port of Long Beach, we have, in my community, methyl bromide. And it's been there for 27 years. It was just identified as being a plague to the community 2 years ago. The community was not notified until a month ago. These type of things must stop. If we are going to work together, we have to be together and understand those things that are important to the community. We are talking about death situations. The companies who were perhaps still operating are within 400 yards of a school, less than that to a community. These things are important. The current fix, the community had no input in this. And that, in my opinion, is out.
Mr. Golden, thank you for always your great testimony. Yep. Thanks for coming down. You're always great. Thanks a lot, Daryl. That concludes our in-person testimony for public comment. We'll now move to virtual public comment. With the board's agreement, I'll reduce the time to 2 minutes per speaker, if that's okay, without objection. So we'll start with, looks like Maggie Hills. Maggie, go ahead, please. You have 2 minutes. Margie, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair Delgado and members of the AQMD board. My name is Margie Hills, and I'm a resident of Brea in Northern Orange County, and I'm also Sierra Club member. I am speaking to acknowledge the work being done by the AQMD board and all the staff on proposed rules 1111 and 1121. I support these regulations because zero emission standards for space and water heating are a pivotal step forward in our ongoing efforts to tackle pollution, get cleaner air in our region, and achieve environmental justice. Fossil fuel furnaces and water heaters are major contributors to smog-forming NOx pollution, causing many cases of respiratory illness, loss of work days, and health-related costs exceeding billions of dollars annually in the South Coast region. I urge the board to adopt these rules, and actually I also urge them to adopt very strong versions of these rules as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hills. Next speaker is Bill Quinn. Welcome, Bill. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome. My name is Bill Quinn with the California Council for Environmental and Economic Balance. I want to take this moment to welcome our 2 new board members, and I look forward to working with you both. I also want to take this moment to really thank Gideon, our board member, for the past 5 years of your service to this agency and to CARB. You've always made time to hear our concerns. You've come to our conferences. You've always done your homework. Thank you. Your comments at last month's board meeting were so important. I've shared the link of the webcast with all my colleagues and asked them to listen to what you had to say. Your comments were spot on. Thank you for everything you've done to make the South Coast a better place for everyone. I really look forward to working with you in the future, and thanks again.
Thank you, Bill. Next speaker is Marvin Norman. Welcome, Marvin. Go ahead.
My wife
Go ahead.
listened to those comments afterwards, and she said I had a mini nervous breakdown in public.
Thanks, Bill. Marvin, go ahead, please.
Hi, yes, good morning, board members, Chair Delgado, and members of the public. Marvin Norman, with CTAJ and San Bernardino resident. And I would like to echo comments made by my colleagues earlier, Daryl, Whitney, and others, and just bring home the importance of getting the port ISR done, as well as the 1111, 1121. I also attended the webinar yesterday with Mike and his team, and it was a good time there, and and getting information out and answering questions. But it also is concerning to see that, but there's still a call for more outreach, which is good. But it seems like every time the outreach happens, the people calling for more outreach are misinforming people as they call for more outreach because of the comments that keep getting brought up in those forums that are either not existing or that have already been addressed by staff in the newest proposal. So be good that as we call for more outreach, we do it in good faith and not just tell people stuff that is already changed. And I also extend thanks to Gideon. I've seen the work he's been doing, and I echo the comments of Mr. Whittingham. Mitch goes a little different. You leave a wake that's bigger than a cargo ship, but instead of aircraft carrier. But hopefully we can get those cargo ship wakes to be zero emission soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marvin. Next speaker is Fernando Marquez Duarte.
Hello, Fernando Marquez Duarte, with the People's Collective for Environmental Justice, also a PhD from UC Riverside. I'm happy to see some of my former students giving public comment. First off, I want to thank you, Board Member Gideon, for the work you have done in these years, and I wish you the best in your future endeavors. And welcome to the new board members. I'm here to speak to advocate for a strong ports ISR that obviously includes emissions reduction. I have been in several meetings in the workshop of the draft language with AQMD staff, and we really do believe that we need emissions reduction. We have the infrastructure there, which is necessary, and the logical necessary next step is to have emissions reduction tied to the percentage of infrastructure that is going to be included in this regulation. Because if we check the mission of South Coast AQMD is to clean the air and protect the health of all residents in the district. And how can we clean the air without emissions reduction? That's the way to do it. So I urge the board members, the environmental champions to support emissions reduction in this regulation. We do need it. We know that the San Bernardino and Riverside County have some of the worst air quality in the nation. I have mentioned several times before, but I will do it again. Just in San Bernardino, over 170,000 individuals suffer from asthma, and in Riverside is over 190,000, and that's due to particulate matters 2.5 and other emissions. So I urge the board to include emissions reduction. Thank
you
so
Fernando.
much.
Speaker Harvey Etter. Welcome, Harvey.
Good morning. Am I being heard? Yeah.
Yes, Harvey.
Okay. I protest being cut to 2 minutes. All right. And taking off on the numbers thing that other gentlemen just brought up. I want Dr. Piqueras, Fernando, in 18 gave me an article from the summer of 18 from Lancet magazine, incorporating by reference. And it was about air pollution based on 10 million in the world of 50 million deaths, 20% air pollution. They said there's 1 million to 1.5 million in the U.S. We're 12% of the population. We have therefore at least like 100 to 150, 200,000 deaths, all right, in the state, Okay, that's our proportion. Okay, there's 300,000 deaths a year. Half of them come from this. This is a captured agency. I'm incorporating by reference 2 Nobel scholars, both Bruce, Joseph Stiglitz, one for Imperfect Information, and his book on inequity. The cost of inequity is losing democracy. That's published in 14. And then this year, the Road to Freedom, Economics of the Good Society. It is reacting to Friedman and Hayek, The Road to Serfdom, and it's garbage, okay? The wolf is free will, and the lamb pays. Enough, okay? Externalities. This is the most significant thing in economics. Okay, also, the captured agency in the early 80s is Stigler. Very similar names. University of Chicago, captured agency. That's what this is. We've brought it up. This is murder. This is premeditated murder. Enough. And you did not have attachments. This is an illegal meeting. Any decisions were made illegal. Enough for now. Forcing us to give elevator talks. The people that got 50 years of damn experience. I was a first environmental studies student in UC 55 years ago, got a living Christmas tree.
Thank you, Harvey. Next speaker is Pedro Ferrer, and the last speaker on our list is Patty Senecal. Pedro, go ahead, please.
Hey everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, Deer South Coast Air Quality Management District. So I would just like to point out some of the key points that I'm going to articulate. Oh yeah, I'm a PhD student at the University of California, Riverside, and I'm also helping working with the People's Collective for Environmental Justice. And so yeah, to get to the key points that I want to articulate is I want to express my concerns and demands regarding the proposed rule language. The first point I want to talk about is the inclusion of emission reductions. I think that is imperative that the proposed rule includes actual clear timelines and goals for emission reductions, because without these mandates, there is no assurance that air quality will improve, in particular for the port communities and those in the IE, right? The pollution generated by the ports, it contributes significantly to ozone and particulate matter emissions, and it negatively affects the health of local residents. And, referring to a 2024 State of the Air report from the American Lung Association, it highlights the severe air quality issues in San Bernardino and Riverside counties, obviously, which ranks first and second nationally for worst ozone pollution levels. Second, I want to piggyback on Kiona's points, right, about the hydrogen examples, right? Like, I think that the draft language considers hydrogen as zero emission solution, yet it is crucial to clarify what type of hydrogen is being referenced, right? As Kiona talked about gray and blue, I think that we should prioritize actual electrification for trucks and rail systems, which can be fully electrified, and it would contribute to genuine emissions reductions. And lastly, the last point I want to make sure is there is a no automation clause. This is important because this industry is being increasingly automated, right? And it's a justification to attack labor and jobs, and especially in these ports. And we need to make sure that these job losses do not hit being a market.
Thank you, Pedro. Next speaker, Ranji George. Welcome, Ranji.
My name is Ranji George, and I was the ex-employee of AQMD in the Technology Advancement Office. Thank you, Mr. Kracov, for your services. I would like to respond to the earlier speaker's comments on hydrogen. I just want to point out that the electrification relies very largely on natural gas. It's about 40% in California. In USA, coal and natural gas contributes over 50% of the raw materials for creating electricity. So electricity is not clean, as some of the people have suggested. And natural gas is used widely for heating. There's a huge amount of natural gas being used. I think about 32 trillion cubic feet of natural gas was used in 2023, according to IEA. So let's be very clear that electrification is not zero, but it's much better than fossil fuel, I admit. And so I would recommend looking at hydrogen freshly, because hydrogen is the least creates the least environmental impacts on the environment. Currently, battery manufacturing is being done in China. It's one of the most polluting sources of pollution, in China. And if you look at the packaging, the processing, and then finally, after the battery is used, the disposable. These are great sources of pollution here, and we are ignoring that when we are doing the battery electrification. That's where hydrogen can play a role. India has become one of the greater suppliers of green hydrogen. I hope Brazil will join it, and we can make hydrogen more affordable if only we can use it in economies of scale. Right now, the funding for hydrogen has been very limited.
Thank you, Ranji. Next speaker is Caitlin Elconton. Caitlin, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Caitlin Elconton, and I'm an environmental law student with Earth Justice, here to discuss the need for a strong port ISR. I'm also a UCLA alum who suffers from chronic asthma and knows what it's like to be driven to the emergency room by toxic air within the district. As major sources of ozone and particulate matter, ports and the industrial sector contribute to respiratory and cardiovascular illnesses in surrounding fence-line communities without being held accountable. To address this public health crisis, the South Coast AQMD must adopt a strong port ISR that first sets clear emission reduction targets that can be measured over time, second, links infrastructure investment to real enforceable limitations on pollution to ensure that infrastructure fulfills its purpose, and third, puts an end to delays. The American Lung Association has been giving Southern California failing grades for ozone and particulate matter pollution in its annual State of the Air reports for nearly 25 years. The ports have had a very long time to act, and if they are genuinely committed to zero emissions, then they should also commit to meeting pollution reduction targets that prioritize public health. While we definitely want to see infrastructure improvement, targeted emissions reductions stem from regulatory mandates that the South Coast AQMD has a duty to adopt. We need a strong port ISR this year to ensure that emissions get cut and that community health can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Our final speaker is Patty Senecal. Patty, welcome. Patty, you're muted.
Yes, there we go. Thank you, Patty Senecal with WISPA. First of all, welcome to our new board members. We look forward to working with you. I would like to recognize, and so would WISPA, recognize Mr. Kracov for his 5 years of leadership and willingness to personally meet and learn from the regulated parties. Your balance to find practical, implementable solutions is appreciated. Thank you for your service and your quest for hearing and learning from all parties. I would also like to say on a personal note, you meet the definition of a mensch. You are a person of integrity, a good person, and I have learned so much in working with you, and I appreciate being able to work and to get to know you better, and hopefully our paths will cross again. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. That concludes public comment portion, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. With that, takes us to the consent and board calendar, items 1 through 17. Board members, any conflicts or questions?
I'll move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
There's a second.
What do I have here, Bay?
For agenda item number 2, Board Member Kracov does not have a financial interest, but he's required to identify for the record, and is doing so through me, that he's a board member of the California Air Resources Board, which is involved in this item. Also, regarding item number 2, he is recusing himself from that item because of a financial interest in Microsoft, which is materially affected by this item.
Okay, any other board member comments?
Madam Chair, a question. Do we recuse ourselves from minutes since we were not here on the 7th? Is that correct?
I'm going to turn to Bay.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Do the new board members recuse themselves?
No.
They can vote. Okay. All right. With that, can we get a roll? Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. There's no public comment here, but we do have 2 hands raised, Vice Chair.
2 hands online. Ranji George, Ranji, go ahead, please. You've got 2 minutes.
Hello, this is Ranji George. I worked with AQMD TAO office in the 90s, and we laid the foundation for zero emission technologies, which has now taken ground in all over the world. I just want to comment on the staff report on item number 16, Technology Committee, the clean air report, and I'm so disappointed there's not much money set aside for considering battery disposal and battery recycling. Batteries are going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, source of pollution in the future, and the next generations have to handle it. We have millions of cars with batteries coming into this basin. Where will it be disposed? Nobody is really asking questions. You're kicking the can onto the governor of the state, but we have to take responsibility because it's our EJ communities that have to locate these large recycling battery facilities. Is it fair? Can we look into analyzing the pollution and what are the material effects on the environment having these big, large recycling factories here? So I urge the board to compel the staff to seriously look into battery recycling and not putting it in a footnote or margin and just ignore it. So that's my thank you for letting me share my comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Ranji. Last speaker is Harvey Etter. Harvey, go ahead, please.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, Harvey.
Yes, okay. I'm Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and Public Solar Power Coalition and like-minded folks and individuals. Ranji is a physicist, a graduate of the London School of Economics, and an economist. Listen to what he says, okay? Externalities, what I just talked about, the murders that are going on every year here from the air pollution.
Limit your comments to items on the agenda. Thank you.
Harvey, go ahead, but limit your comments to items on our current agenda. Go ahead.
I want to incorporate comments I made in reference to being interrupted and whatnot, and people being purged.
Thank you. We can move on.
That concludes public comment, Madam Chair.
Okay, can we get a roll call on that motion to approve the
And
consent?
to clarify, Board Member Kracov, again, just as a reminder, is recusing himself from agenda item number 4 because of financial interest in Microsoft, which is materially affected by this item.
Okay, with that, please vote. Okay, that item passes, and that takes us to item number 19, the permitting enhancement program update.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, board members. Welcome, Councilmember Olmos, Supervisor Nguyen, Board Member Kracov. Thank you for your service. I am Jason Aspel. I'm Deputy Executive Officer with the Engineering and Permitting Division here at South Coast. I will be presenting the Permitting Enhancement Update, or as referred to it as PEP. Next slide, please. So this is the third PEP update. PEP was introduced by Chair Delgado in April of 2023 with the objective of reducing the permit backlog, improving permit issuance timelines, and modernizing a very aged permitting system. Staff presented the PEP work plan to establish 5 main PEP elements consisting of 21 short and long-term enhancements to achieve the PEP objectives. Next slide, please. So here are the 5 elements. 2 of the 5 elements are related to staffing, which continue to be a success under PEP. Today will be a general update on production goals with a focus on 2 current and upcoming streamlining measures, and an update on our longer-term IM-related efforts, which are expected to have a big impact on our efficiencies. Next slide, please. So we finished 2024 very strong on permitting production. Compared to our first year, our permitting production was up 13% at the end of the year. We are continuing to push this production with our fiscal year goals, and the success has been due to the rapid hiring and training in 2023 under PEP. Our vacancies were at low, near 9%, but slightly increased due to natural internal movement within the agency. But we're going to drive this down below 10% again with a recruitment that is in progress right now. Even with this steady progress, there are some parts that are moving faster than others, and there's still a lot that needs to be done. So we are hearing from the stakeholders and expressing concern on timelines, and we're having periodic focus initiatives to push completions for our aged projects. This week, we just finished another 2-month-long initiative where we acted on 233 more aged projects. So that's 674 aged applications during PEP within the last week, and now bumped up to 693. We're not done. This will be a sustained effort to address our entire workload. We are continuing to engage with our permitting stakeholders. Most recently, we solicited feedback on our Certified Permitting Professional Program, or CPP. I will be discussing that in more detail today. I also will introduce the initial phase of our electronic application forms. We'll be discussing that this month at a working group meeting. This is going to be an ongoing effort to develop these forms, the application submittal portal, and our new permitting workflows. So we have a lot going on in addition to our permitting production. Next slide, please. So speaking of production, here's another check-in on our production chart. As a reminder, we lost a large portion of our experienced staff in 2022, leading to the introduction of PEP. And we had the massive hiring and training efforts as we ramped up production. We are working on improving the timelines under PEP and erase that production deficit that you see there from the days of our high vacancy rate. As you may have received a package we provided last week with an example of a permit evaluation. Air quality permitting is very complex, and training of air quality engineers takes time. But you are seeing the steady progress of our efforts, an upward trend continuing under the enhancements in PEP.
Sorry, could I just ask a clarifying question here?
Yes.
When you say production increasing, I just want to understand you mean the number of applications that are approved is increasing?
Yes, our actions on permit applications is increasing. So issuance of permits to construct.
Issuance of permits has increased back to pre-pandemic. Okay, thank you.
Next slide, please. So under PEP, we have been meeting our fiscal year goals we've been setting relating to permit production and timelines. We are on target to meet this year's goal as well. We report our progress each month to Stationary Source Committee. If we continue our production pace from 2024, we will meet our upcoming goal to increase production by 500. We also just hit our Title V goal, that is the federal permitting system. We're well ahead of schedule, and we're going to continue to add to those totals as well. Next slide, please. So I do want to take a moment to address public comment received at the January 2024 Stationary Source Committee meeting that permits are still taking too long, and there is a bottleneck at the higher supervisory review level. This is something that's been an ongoing effort for us. We've added positions around the division to address it, and our seniors and supervisors are the staff tasked with training our new staff as well as maintaining production. But we recently looked at this data again in response to this comment. And as a division, applications awaiting supervisor review have actually decreased 4% over the last year, which typically means more applications are in process and being approved. This may seem like a small increment, but it's equal to hundreds of applications. So some teams, of course, are lower. But the comment was limited to the permitting team handling waste management facilities, such as landfills, which is presently higher, and we are working on this actively. We took some immediate actions and we're setting some metric-based goals, and we're tracking this very closely, and we're going to be looking deeper in the data to see if we can see any causal factors. We're going to be bringing this back to our task force on these issues and with any recommendations if further action is needed. But again, as a whole, as a division, we are seeing improvement in our supervisory review queues for approval of permits. Next slide, please. So moving on to streamlining measures, many permit projects require public notice and a public comment period before issuance, which can make permitting timelines unpredictable. Staff sought to streamline the distribution process for public notices. Historically, this process has been handled by individual permitting engineers, and the permit applicant would be responsible for distribution of the notice. For many facilities, especially small businesses, this is not within their expertise and often resulted in delays. We have created an opt-in provision where facilities can utilize non-engineering staff for this function. Our initial pilot program for about 40 public notices resulted in huge time savings for permit timelines, not to mention freeing up engineer time to work on other tasks. So this has been well received both by industry and permitting staff, and we're going to be continuing this program in full. Next slide, please. So the Certified Permitting Professional Program, CPP, is one of the bigger ticket items we are looking to revamp under PEP. CPP is an existing program and is an option for air districts under the Health and Safety Code. CPP is envisioned to create an external permitting resource to submit permit application packages with evaluations to help expedite the internal review process. But the program has become stagnant. Staff has discussed the program in multiple meetings with our task force and concurs with most of the feedback, and there are things that can be done to fully recognize the potential of this program. Next slide, please. So staff is acting on this feedback. We're going to continue to discuss the concepts with our task force, and we're planning to have a CPP-focused working group meeting in late April. From there, we're going to develop a new workflow process improvements to achieve the original vision for the program. There is at least one other air district that has a similar program that we're going to be maintaining communications with. In the meantime, we are awaiting a small pilot project for some of the strategies we have in mind for CPP, so we can test some concepts before we implement. So this will be a longer term item as a process needs to be developed, but we think it can be very, very beneficial for the permitting program. Next slide, please. So the biggest undertaking for PEP, the permitting software system that we use to every day to process our permits. For our newer board members, most of the software we use is 20 to 30 years old and is extremely inefficient and is unacceptable for our current day operations and expectations. So we are working on designing the new workflow. We have been evaluating both internal and external software options, in addition to reaching out to other air districts to make sure we are considering every potential efficiency for the new system, and then also what does and does not work. Part of this as well is also reaching out to our external users to solicit feedback, what does and does not work for them as well. So staff developed the first batch of our new electronic forms, and we're going to be presenting that next week on the 13th. This is still in the early stages of development, but we are making progress. So during this time, permitting staff is not waiting for this new system. Again, we're working on small scale projects right now to try and push the needle on efficiencies, and we're going to be working outside the current system to see what is possible to reduce administrative type steps within the evaluation and review process. So next slide, please. So for other PEP related items for staffing, we have been very thankful to those retirees that continued to assist us with our permit processing efforts to help train staff over the last 2 years. The last of our retirees ended his service last week. Unfortunately, we no longer meet the key provisions of SAPSERA, namely that we have no active recruitments to fill vacancies because we fill those positions. There is no gap to fill with the retiree. We are still utilizing succession planning for key upcoming retirements, and we still have our contractors in place, which have been assisting with the more resource-intensive work to support our engineering staff. Additionally, we have started interviews within the last week, and we're in a position to onboard new engineers within the next couple months. Next slide, please. So the next 2 items are not directly related to PEP, but came about as we work through our items. There are many components of our Title V permitting program, which have not been revisited since the program was first implemented. The Title V is the federal permitting program. It's very complex, takes up a lot of our resources. However, we're responsible for implementing it. These are not the urgent items that need immediate attention, but it will help set priorities for staff for the next 2 years for acting on some of the things that need to be done. So we'll be initiating this plan within the next month. Lastly, as we are nearing the first stages of introducing electronic application forms, there is a need to inform facilities on how to use the new system as we roll it out. After the last PEP update, if you remember, we discovered a new resource, and we are going to be utilizing AI to develop some training videos for each of these forms to explain the process. Staff will still be available, of course, to walk permit applicants through these new forms, but we're just going to be sharing a very short segment of these videos with you right now, just to give you a taste of what it will look like. If we can pop in the cassette and hit play, please.
This video provides an introduction to South Coast AQMD's new electronic permitting forms developed under the Permitting Enhancement Program, or PEP. These electronic forms will help applicants submit complete permit applications, making the process faster and easier. Figuring out what's needed for a permit can be time-consuming, especially for small facilities with just one piece of equipment. That's why, under PEP, we're creating online forms that walk applicants through the process step by step. The goal is to make it easy to provide all the necessary information up front and cut down on delays caused by missing or unclear details that can lead to multiple back and forth follow-ups. To make things even easier, training videos will be made available for each electronic form to help both new and returning users navigate the system and avoid common mistakes like submitting the wrong fees. Looking ahead, staff plans to use all available tools to improve the process even further, adapting to user feedback, and making the permit application process more transparent and efficient for everyone.
All right, thank you very much. Those are not intended to replace the phone call, a quick email for permit applicants, but hopefully something before they sit down, they can collect all the materials needed and have an understanding to make the process a little bit easier and faster for everyone. The next slide, please. And no, we cannot use Ron's avatar for the videos. In terms of next steps, still a lot to do. Our next board update will be later this year, when we are going to give you an update on all items and focus on those longer term IM related items in our efforts related to streamlining and efficiencies that are all ongoing right now. Again, we're going to be discussing the first phase of our e-forms in the working group meeting next week on March 13th. And we're also going to be developing that CPP framework and having the dedicated working group meeting on April 23rd. And then that's going to be followed by another meeting with our permitting task force to revisit everything. And we're going to be coming back to you, to the board, with our continued progress in about 6 months. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jason. I just have a quick question. For CPP, is that is it like outside consultants that would help us and actually do the work, or just advise? I wasn't super clear on that.
So it is a program where an individual such as a consultant or a employee of a facility can become certified through with our permitting process. They can go through a training program, take a test, they become familiar with it. So it would be external resources preparing those applications for submittal to the district. About 80 of the 120 we have are consultants.
Okay, thank you. Board members, I have several requests to speak, so I'll start with Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a question on the CPPs, particularly in hearing you use the term stagnant in relation to the program. But I think I'll just wait. You say in the next PEP update that we'll get more information. I'm looking for and will be curious about what that infrastructure looks like, how we can make sure that they're more efficient, not stagnant, more accurate outcomes. So I'll just wait for your next update.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam.
Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and again, thank you for bringing this front and center under your leadership and having us focus so intently, and appreciate staff's progress. Particularly, it's very encouraging to hear permit production up 13%. So thank you for the continued hard work on that front. A couple of questions. One, pilot programs, glad to hear that we're stepping out and trying to do new things, and it seems like a lot of good news from going from 120 days up to 120 days down to an average of 17 days. So curious, question one would be, can we move that beyond the 40 sample that you referenced? When can we take that pilot and apply it across the board? Question one. Two, disappointed to hear that we're still using 20-year-old software. So curious, when do we anticipate being able to have a cost for state-of-the-art software? And if we can have that before the budget, I'd be really interested in having us consider that as soon as possible. Also, wanted to find out, thirdly, from a staffing standpoint, noticing the progress there, but which universities do we have kind of established a pipeline, so to speak, of new talent, so that universities, as they're working through and preparing graduates, that they can shift right into an interview scenario? Or do we have that type of pipeline set, and what universities? And then lastly, fourthly, just curious about the 674 aged applications and what kind of defines that as a criteria. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, board member, for your questions. I'll work through these. First, for the public notices, we are going to go full speed right now. We do have some cost recovery rule amendments we're going to be bringing to you in a couple months, but right now is going to be staff's full capability. There is a dedicated staff member for this, but it's an opt-in program, and they're going to be doing everything they can to work on those now. So we are expanding that. We just needed to stress test the system a little bit to see what they were capable of. If there's, we'll assess if more resources are needed for that, if we continue seeing the efficiencies there. Let me come back to number 2 on the budget. For number 3 on staff and pipelines, actually, we have an ongoing, our agency engineering department has an ongoing relationship with 2 universities, Cal Poly and also Long Beach State, where we've recruited a lot of new engineers over the past couple of years. Actually, staff right now is at Long Beach State talking to a chemical engineering class right now. Also, we do regular recruitments. We work with our HR department. We've done UCI, UCR. We've done USC in the past. Sorry, I stumbled because I'm a Bruin. So we have multiple, each time we do a recruitment, each year we have multiple efforts for that. And it's really gotten us a lot of good talent. Also, we did, I think, an event with LAUSD earlier this year where we saw some permit applicants. In terms of aged applications and what that criteria is, that is 2 years old waiting on a permit, 2 years or more. So that has been 690, what did I say, 93, just under PEP for that. And that's really the ones that sit in complex, and we got to focus and get those out because somebody is waiting to act on those. So we're going to continue that. We have brought down that number significantly under PEP. And that was a large chunk of our aged applications that we just worked on in the last couple months. For budgeting and the new software system, I'll say we're working on it. We're meeting internally, vendors, trying to assess those workflows because we really have to design how the new electronic applications are going to flow through and what that system looks like. We're meeting weekly on that. Hope to have more information on that for you soon. Just don't have exact values yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason, the third to last slide, and go back to that one. It's on other PEP-related efforts, staffing. Bring that up for everybody to see. Third to last slide, just go back 3. And Jason, I want to thank you and your staff. I know how hard you're working when the chair had this visionary efforts to really move this. I've seen these permits lag for 18 years. So thank you so much, Madam Chair. Jason, your staff's been working overtime, and the entire staff has. But I'm curious on the consultant part of that, where you said contractors are continuing to provide support. I know we're trying to stay within budget. If you can tell me what are contractors coming in, kind of like taking the place of staff and doing the work too, and how many do we have hired? And can we bring a little more in to maybe speed it up, or is that possible while staying within budget?
Absolutely. We still are within budget. We have 2 contractors right now. We could always evaluate more. Yes, they have been working on everything. I think what we've been focused on is the efforts supplemental to the engineers' efforts that are time intensive. So air quality, like modeling, dispersion modeling, review of CEQA documents. We do have them on review of some permit applications. We've had one draft handbook for an upcoming rule we're working on. So it's a lot of work. We have had the retirees before then, more focused on the hands-on permitting evaluations. So we'll assess that as we no longer have that resources. I think definitely to see if there's more opportunity for consultants. We still have about a half of our original budgeted amount for those consultants. So we still have room there, but again, additional resources could always assist us with that.
If you're looking for an unqualified retiree, and the pension opens up, I may know one person who's interested.
I have a timeline for training that gets you up to production. Thank you very much.
Jason, I support even more consultants if we can keep it within budget just to move it along. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great comment. Councilmember Rahman.
Thank you so much for this work. Thank you, Chairwoman, for moving this forward. I think permitting reform and making these processes better is essential to ensuring that regulatory work doesn't hinder economic growth and activity here in the region. So thank you. I was wondering, I saw some metrics in here that showed progress. The number of average days it takes to move a permit through has dropped down significantly, which is great. I saw some numbers related to addressing older applications, which is great. What are the other metrics that you're using to review this work and to show success? So in doing this in the city of Los Angeles related to housing permit backlogs, we would be looking at how many applications are outstanding and a reduction in those outstanding applications over time. We would be looking at a reduction in potentially costs for applicants or time it takes for applicants to be able to prepare or respond to issues that are brought up by our process. How much staff time it takes to address each application. There might be other metrics that you might be looking at, and I'd love to see what those are and how you're doing on those.
Absolutely. That is one of the challenges of this effort and our system. We have some metrics available to us. Could get much more with a new system. But what we do look at in addition to that is, again, it's age of the application, I would say, is number one. Also, in terms of staffing, what are the applications assigned to each staff? Is that manageable and continuing distributing that work and reassessing that? We've done about 3 reorgs under PEP to make sure that is distributed. The other is what we would like to have more information, what we're digging in is that supervisor review is how bogged down are our supervisors, or do they have the resources to get it out? That residency time is what we're really missing and looking for. So hopefully we can get that. But the other more difficult thing to convey is trying to get an apples to apples comparison on timelines to issuance where we are compared to where we used to be.
Hmm.
We're seeing a little lag in the initial stages when we first get the application in.
What do you mean by lag?
Couple weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks. We tend to match up with our old timelines when we used to get things out. Not that that was perfect back then. When we act on about 80% of our applications. So we're basically plotting the lines of when we're acting on our applications. Very complex, but we're just trying to make sure that we're not letting that lag too far with our new staff. We're hoping to squeeze that gap and get to our normal permitting timelines that we've seen historically.
And pardon, but I'm not sure I'm quite following the process you're describing or what you're trying to change. But I do think that an effort like this, it would be useful to know what was your backlog before you started? What's your backlog now? What's your average time of completion before you started? What's your average time of completion now? What do you hope to get to? What are the goals you're trying to get to for both of these? That I think is, even for someone who's not familiar with the whole process, would be helpful. Or, for example, with each part of the process, this is the number of days it takes to go from part 1 to part 2. That's how long it took last year, and this is how long it's taking this year. So I would appreciate that in future presentations.
Thank you. And I can let me give a direct response. Back in 2016, our total inventory was over 7,600. Currently, our total inventory is 5,100.
Could you say that one more time?
Back in 2016, we had a backlog reduction effort. We were at over 7,600 permit applications in-house.
That were waiting to be.
Yes, that were applications on desks. Now we're currently at 5,100. We've stayed below those original historical amounts.
And what was it last year when you started?
Last year, unfortunately, I don't have this, but we've maintained consistency in the 4,000 to 5,000 range.
Yeah, if I could just add, as Jason said, in 2016, when I came in, the backlog was really high. In fact, that was the priority of the board at the time. Within 2.5 years, we dropped the backlog down to 5,000. We dropped a lot of the throughput time that was necessary. Then we hit COVID, then we hit a big wave of retirement, and then we saw the numbers starting to creep back up. But just so that you know, on a weekly basis, Jason and his team report out the number of applications that we received in the week, the number of applications compared to the prior year. The challenge that we have is the categorization of permits. Jason sent to each of you one of the Title V permit packages. And you can see that's just one permit package. We have over 200 and some odd facilities under the Title V permit program. And those are very, very complex. They're required so by EPA. That was one of the audit findings from EPA, I want to say 2017 or 16? 16, that said our permits were not adequate. So that in of itself put a tremendous burden in terms of updating the permits, and probably was one of the greatest contributors to the overall time delay. We've been doing it through the means of addressing permits as they come up for renewal, as opposed to trying to do it all at once, which would have been impossible. And so all of these things have taken time, the loss with other people, but we're now back to a point where we're always striving to improve, but it's that broad categorization, because you're dealing with gas station permits, dry cleaner permits, you're dealing with all sorts of things. And so trying to track all of that is what Jason and his team are doing. And I think the new software team that they're working together with will help address a lot of the things that you're asking about.
Okay, that's great. And I think, again, when we get our next update on this, it would be great to get a little more visibility into that and progress on the metrics. And I know the backlog also increases when you have more applications and economic activity coming in, which is, that's a sign of health in the region, which is great. But if there was a way that we could see your metrics and make sure that we're able to monitor them as a board, that I think would be extremely helpful as we move through this process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem McCallum.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, especially for your leadership in emphasizing this area. I want to thank staff for all the hard work. It's evident that that staff has been working hard on this issue and the backlog has come down. I just have a question related to those that are awaiting action. In October, from October to January, there's been a 20% increase in that area. Is that a temporary increase, or can you explain why that's happening and what those awaiting actions mean?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. So just to clarify, the awaiting action that is referring to is in our monthly report. We have, I have black and white, but I think it's red, a category of items, permit applications that staff cannot proceed with. Something needs to happen for that to happen. The majority, sorry, I don't have that report in front, but the last update was 1791. The majority of them are files or application that staff has acted on, issued a permit to construct. The facility can go and build their equipment, operate their equipment, but our file still stays open. It is still in the inventory. So until the facility completes construction, tests it, and then we issue a final permit to operate, that is when the file is closed out. So it remains in that inventory. The 5,100 I mentioned, part of this is the 1791 that we reported in February. So why has that grown since then? Staff has been acting and issuing a lot of permits to construct lately. So it takes time. There are some delays here and there with construction process, but it really does take time for facilities to build this industrial machinery that they need for their processes.
So I thought that was a result of your efficiency in the front end of issuing those permits, causing that backlog. And I agree, it takes a long time to get some of those construction activities done. I just wanted to point out that that can be a sign of your success on the front end and reducing that backlog. So appreciate the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Wayne, I'm listening to the story. This has been a problem. Thank you for your leadership, Madam Chair. I mean, for business, time is money. If you get a permit out in 30, 60 days, that's acceptable. It takes a couple of years, that's definitely unacceptable. It doesn't matter what the cost is. Every month they're losing income. We had this similar thing, it's apples and oranges, because this is very technical. What we had in our city when we went through the growth phase of when I was on council through Chino Hills. And we it sounds similar to me, where we try to build up our infrastructure to handle the bubble. And you see this with other, even federal agencies, where you can outsource some of this process when the times are backlogged or you have a bubble of applications. And I would encourage you to see there's other engineering firms, environmental firms, administration substitutes in where you can basically start to get that time and just kind of outsource some of the things that's not so technical, doesn't require your engineers to look at. We did the same thing. We're able to get through the system and not grow so big during the peak of our growth that when it stopped, we had all this extra staff we had to let go either. And so we're dealing with Army Corps right now. They have this thing where you can outsource if it's Olympic related, those type of things. So it's a similar type of thing. Can you find partnerships out there to streamline this process? And not necessarily, I would guess most of these people have applications in right now would pay a lot more if they had a guaranteed time of output for their permit, because they're losing money on this. So we gave them here's the standard process, this fee, but here's the expedited process. You can use these outside firms and pay that. So it's just an idea.
We appreciate the idea. We actually do use the expedited permit process. The challenge on a lot of the back-end stuff that Jason was referring to deals with the permit to construct and then the actual source testing. And the source testing has been one of the key factors that limits the throughput time. Facilities have a tough time scheduling the source permit, the source testing. And from my perspective, that seems to be one of the biggest factors in the delays. To your point about outsourcing, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that the board had approved was the use of retired engineers and others. I think the CPP process will help expedite that as well. So we're definitely looking at those opportunities where we can. bring in additional bodies without necessarily building up the staff, but really making sure that the staff that are here are efficiently trained, effectively trained, and really knowledgeable in that process. And that, unfortunately, because of COVID and the big wave of retirements that we had as an organization over the last several years, has really impacted our throughput. But I'm very encouraged by what Jason has been able to do these last 2 years. And I think the fact that the chair has really highlighted and asked to have this report out, I hope demonstrates the progress that's been made. But we certainly recognize other opportunities exist, and we're going to take advantage of those to the maximum extent as possible. So thank you for your suggestions.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank you, Jason, for stepping up and handling this gargantuan task. I remember when you came up here and you brought the paper, I think maybe it was Ron, somebody brought a paper files that was our filing system for all of this. And, for me, I do have my developer experience and, have to go through permitting processes. So that's why this was important to me. But more than anything, it was because the faster we can get people through our process, the faster we can get air emissions reductions. And so I wanted you to know that your work, helps save lives. And I thank you and all the related teams for all this hard work. So thank you so much. With that, I'm going to take public comment. We have somebody here, David Rothbart.
Thank you very much, Gideon, for your outstanding service on the board. I'm David Rothbart. I'm with Clean Water SoCal, representing the wastewater sector in Southern California. In order to treat society's waste, we're required to obtain South Coast AQMD permits before construction can commence. Any new permit must be cleaner for existing equipment, so approving permits rapidly will reduce emissions. We came to you about a year ago, actually a little bit more than a year ago, explaining it was taking over 3 years to obtain permits for our essential public services. In response, the board prioritized permit streamlining to address this problem. We're very thankful of the focus. But we have not observed an improvement in permit streamlining times yet. We did a survey of our members last week and had heard that we're not seeing improvement in the processing time. We really appreciate the effort. We thank Jason for the presentation, all his efforts. I talk to Jason on a regular basis. I know he's working hard, but this is a very complex process, and it's going to take time to really whittle this down and get things changed. But essentially for our membership, it's really challenging. We have essential public services. We're treating society's waste. So we really need a permit quickly, and waiting 3+ years just doesn't make sense. I don't know if there's any ways to work outside the box to find ways to allow permits to be issued for this unique situation, but it would be really appreciated. So essentially, bottom line, we respectfully request some additional efforts, at least for our essential public services, to rapidly obtain permits to construct. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't see any hands raised online. And there's not an action item here. So thank you so much for your presentation. With that, we have 2 public hearings. Public hearing, item number 20. Aaron's going to lead us through that. The Technology Advancement Clean Fuels Program.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Aaron Katzenstein, Deputy for the Technology Advancement Office. Next slide, please. So every year we're required under the Clean Fuels Program to submit a report to the state legislator of what we've done for the Clean Fuels Program last year and what we're planning on doing this year. So that's what's before you here today. Next slide. Just a little background on the Clean Fuels Program. We focus on projects that go from research, development, demonstration, and deployment. We hope to get new technologies like many of what you see outside into the commercial sector. Then we can add them to our incentive programs. Next slide. So last year under the Clean Fuels Program, we spent $8.5 million on projects. A large part of that went to the MATE 6 study that will be starting this year. Overall, we initiated 25 new contracts for a total value of $27 million. And under that MATE 6 study with the health impacts, we're focusing on source attribution of some particulate matter from brake and road tire wear, And then also looking at some ethylene oxide potential secondary formation that UC Riverside's looking at that may be happening in the atmosphere at very, very low levels. Next slide. So some of the projects to highlight from last year, we received a grant award from the Air Resources Board to electrify the Balboa ferries. These ferries have been in place since the 1950s. They transport over 1.5 million passengers a year, 350,000 cars going back and forth. Just moving to the right, Zero Emission Industries is they're developing a mobile refueler for hydrogen. We have another study with UC Riverside helping with the infrastructure for battery electric trucks and fleets that purchase these trucks on how best they should charge in their routes. And then we have the brake and tire wear study on the very right. Next slide. Last technology committee, we had a presentation from Range Energy. That trailer is outside right now. It's a hybrid trailer, very exciting technology. We're also working with the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center to electrify their 2 breathmobiles. So that chassis for those new breathmobiles is made by a company called Harbinger out of Garden Grove, and they have one of the chassis outside today on demonstration. And just some other engine projects with fuel blends. The one on the far right is with a company called Acades, looking at opposed opposite piston technology on engines to be a lot more efficient. Next slide. So we're looking at for 2025, these are projects that we know about currently. Whether they pan out, we're able to bring them to the board for recommendation, we'll have to see. But we're going to still focus a lot of our efforts on zero emission infrastructure, looking at getting that infrastructure in place, ways to support that. Next slide, please. So last year, we were very aggressive in grant writing again. We received some very large grants. Board Member Kracov mentioned the CPRG grant. We got the largest award in the nation. There's 4 measures there. We have battery electric trucks, cargo handling equipment, battery electric switcher locomotives, and battery electric infrastructure, charging infrastructure. Those RFPs we anticipate will start to come to the board for your consideration in the next couple of months. And there's also a large workforce training component of that grant. We received 2 additional awards from the EPA under their heavy duty opportunities for class 6 and 7 trucks, zero emission school buses. We received a DEER award for zero emission trucks. And then you haven't seen this award yet, but we call it SPEED. That'll be coming before your consideration in the next couple of months, and then the Balboa Ferry project. So altogether, $640 million awarded. So we have a lot of work to do this year. Next slide. These are just some of the incentive program highlights from last year. We had a very good year for lawn and garden equipment, 3,700 pieces exchanged. Mostly those are all commercial pieces of equipment. Many are outside today also. VW Mitigation awarded 90 zero emission trucks. This is throughout the entire state of California. We administer that for the state. School filtration, the 7.9 million, most of that was related to the LISO settlement funds that we have. And those went to the LAUSD schools. And we also received a small settlement amount from the Air Resources Board that we could put school filtration systems in private and public school or private and daycare facilities in the AB 617 communities. And then we have the residential air filtration program, East Los Angeles, AB 617, and also ECV. And then under the MOIA program, we did something a little different last year. We really focused on zero emission infrastructure, and we awarded many projects. We awarded all the hydrogen stations that were applied to us except for one. We also awarded 1,300 heavy duty charging plugs along with a lot of zero emission trucks. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the breakdown of where we are with the clean fuels funding, on how we're funding zero emission technologies versus other technologies, and also the last 5 years for the incentive programs. We're seeing that the piece of pie for zero emission technologies really start to increase, especially in the incentive programs, as things become more and more commercialized. Next slide. So looking into 2025, we have a lot to do. So with the $640 million in awards, we have about $260 million in incentive funds. So we have around $900 million to implement this year. And so we're going to really focus on implementation of those funds. We've been working on this truck loaner program that we hope to get rolling out in the early summer months. And that's really going to focus on small business owner operators and allowing them to try out zero emission trucks in their business for up to a month. And then we'll definitely educate them on all the incentive programs if they're interested in purchasing. And then we're also going to start, we think right now, 4 residential lawn and garden in-person exchange events. Next slide. So we have a few new members that we'd like to add to the advisory group for the Clean Fuels program. The first is Dr. Leela Rao. She is the air quality manager of air quality practices at the Port of Long Beach, and she's replacing Morgan Caswell. And then we're proposing 2 more additions to the Clean Fuels advisory group. So Dr. Gordon Abbas Guzari, he's the president and CEO of Magmotor. He's got a long history of zero emission chassis development and powertrain development. He's also a professor at the UCLA Risk Sciences Department. And then Yazi Kavazad, now with the California Building Decarbonization Coalition. She was very helpful in the last year, working with us on the grant applications, and is very interested in many of the technologies we have in the Clean Fuels program. Next slide. And so these are the actions before you today to really approve the Clean Fuels program, adopt the plan update, the resolution saying that we're not duplicating projects, the new membership changes, and then allow us to submit this to the state legislator this month. Next slide. And then out there today, this is an old slide. It says 20 technology partners. When others found out about it, it kind of got out of hand. So we have over 30 technology partners out there right now, and there's over 40 pieces of equipment. So hopefully you can make it outside. And that concludes my presentation.
Great. I definitely want to get out there. So I'll take any questions from the board right now before we open public comment. Any burning questions? Seeing none. I'll ask here in the room if there's anybody who'd like to speak. This is a public hearing, so you don't have to sign up. You can come up and speak. I've opened the public hearing. Seeing none, we'll go to the vice chair for comments online.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Online, we have 2 speakers and time is limited to 2 minutes. First speaker is Harvey Etter. Harvey, go ahead, please, and welcome.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes.
Okay, my name's Harvey Etter. I'm the founder and director of Public Solar Power Coalition, and speaking for them and myself and like-minded folks and entities. BYD, Build Your Dreams. They came up on lithium batteries for cell phones. Okay, what's happening now in China and this tariffs and stuff? That's BYD. We had them here. They were going to build out of Palmdale, Lancaster, 5,000 Class 8 trucks a year. They're building 1,500 buses a year now. Okay, we would have had 30,000 right now. Oh, what happened? They got bad-mouthed by the state. They went back to China and stuff, and now they got them all over Europe, everybody else in the world. Okay, we got to be creative about this tariff thing. If we got to deal with it. There used to be a voluntary tax in the anti-nuclear movement and stuff like this. These rich people can pay taxes for poor people. We can do something. Whether they get anything, credits or write-ups, that's something else. Okay, we got to get creative. The plant that they want to build a plant in Mexico. Okay, what's up? I want an analysis of why we badmouth that we were with, and this is superior technology to Tesla. Tesla wanted to sell out to the Saudis for $54 billion, and then he had contracts with SEC again for another $100 billion for when Avis went bankrupt and stuff into the big leagues. This is no genius. This is a guy who manipulated the system. He came here to Santa Monica. We had solar Santa Monica, and they were selling stuff here, and people thought it was the city. All right, we got to analyze why was this. We run them out of the state, and now they're coming back to haunt us. And how can we work with them? Okay, enough for now. And embark best available retrofit control technology. This has got to be analyzed. We got a 12 Supreme Court decision here on technology forcing after coating manufacturers that applies to solar. We've established this.
Thank you. Next speaker and final speaker is Ranji George. Ranji, go ahead. 2 minutes.
Yes, this is Ranji George. I worked with the Technology Advancement Office at AQMD in the 90s. I just want to continue to urge the board members to separate hydrogen from batteries from the overall umbrella of zero emission. Hydrogen is an advanced zero emission technology. Battery has considerably polluting while packaging it and disposing and be asking to address that. And geopolitics. China and America may go into probably a World War III on these battery technologies. Hydrogen will not do that. It is available in seawater around you. Please, when you go to the ocean, you can see it. That's where the next source of hydrogen is coming from. And America is blessed with solar. We can use it, both solar to do it. Right now, it's expensive because the demand is so limited. And this agency should have been providing the leadership on it, which we did in the late 90s and early 2000s. But it failed because all the funding is going to natural gas, now to electric vehicles. Very little funding for hydrogen. Dr. Kanstein mentioned 640 million was coming to AQMD, and he mentioned 4 broad categories. All were battery electric. You can see how the agency is throwing hydrogen under the bus. Very little, some funds here or there, but overall, there's a dearth of funds for this. So I urge you to keep it separate in all your RFP so you can track how much funding is going for hydrogen, which is a much more advanced zero-emission technology than batteries. And I worked with both of them in the 80s. We laid the foundation for that, thanks to the support of my leadership at that time. So I urge you, please stand up and speak out on the cleaner technologies so that the next generation can benefit from it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the public comment. I will close the public comment period. Board members, back to you for motion.
Move approval of staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Can we get a roll call, please? Okay, that item passes. Thank you very much, Aaron. With that, we move to the reclaim audit report. And it looks like we can waive the presentation in light of trying to get out to the technology. Okay. I still have to open the public comment period for this item. Anybody who wishes to speak can come up and speak on this item. This is to approve the annual reclaim audit report for 2023 compliance. Nobody here present who wishes to speak. Vice Chair, anybody online for this item?
Madam Chair, nobody online with hands raised.
Okay, with that,
Oh, a hand just came up.
Okay.
Since we're trying to hustle, we'll give you a minute and a half on public comment. If you want to come in this item, please raise your hands at this time. Javier, you go ahead, please. You've got 1 minute and a half. Harvey, you're muted.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, go ahead, please, Harvey.
I'm Harvey Eder, speaking for myself, PSPC, like-minded folks and entities. We 15 years ago, we started this thing that should be command and control and came to y'all on it. And we could not see
please
this.
limit your comments to items relating to this reclaim audit.
I'm trying.
Go ahead, Harvey. Focus on the audit report. Reclaim. Go ahead.
I'm trying to address it, but you keep interrupting me. Okay, look, reclaim. I'm saying that we brought this up 15 years ago, and that this stuff with reclaim, you know, you're messing with my head. You're messing with the people. I
Thank
lose
you.
my
We
train
can
of
move
thought.
on. This doesn't relate to this item.
Thank you, Harvey. That concludes public comment, Madam Chair.
Okay, with that, roll call, please. Oh, we closed the public comment period. Is there's still a roll call vote on this item? Yes.
Move approval.
Oh, and a motion. See, I was just rushing too much. Okay, now we can vote. It looks like everybody's posted their vote on that. Thank you very much. We do have closed session. Bay, if you can guide us into that.
Yes, it is necessary for the board to recess to close session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A and 54956.9D4 to consider initiation of litigation. It is also necessary to recess to close session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 to evaluate the performance of public employees, executive officer, and general counsel.
Hey, Sam, Neil Patrick.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Kurt.
Start working out again, like I feel every muscle.
session. The board meeting is now adjourned.